What do you mean we don't cancel people? We canceled David Duke. We canceled pornography on TV. We cancel stuff all the damn time.
The main agent in that normalization is Tucker Carlson, who is an intellectual coward, a dishonest interlocutor, and a terrible friend.
So to see someone lie or speak in a way that's dishonest but totally unmoored from physical reality is always bewildering. And you're like, but no, that's not, I said the opposite. Right. And then you realize, of course, it's not about you or what you said. It's about something bigger.
Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic. And of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned. The Heritage Foundation didn't become the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement by canceling our own people or policing the consciences of Christians. And we won't start doing that now. We will always defend truth. We will always defend America, and we will always defend our friends against the slander of bad actors who serve someone else's agenda. That includes Tucker Carlson, who remains, and as I have said before, always will be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation.
That was Kevin Roberts. He's the president of the Heritage Foundation. And now he's facing a tidal wave of backlash for refusing to disavow Tucker Carlson, who recently interviewed Nick Fuentes. More in a moment, but Cenk, what are your 2 cents here?
You might see Kevin Roberts in the next administration because that was a super smart political move. I'm going to explain why a little bit later. But the civil war that it has started within the Republican Party is amazing. And that's what we're going to tell you about first.
So the Heritage Foundation is the powerful conservative organization behind Project 2025. Carlson actually started his career there as a fact checker, proofreader, and writer back in the 1990s. And Roberts and Carlson are now close friends. But after his interview with Fuentes, the Heritage Foundation faced calls to publicly condemn Carlson. Before we get any further, here is what Tucker had to say about Fuentes' anti-Semitic views. Take a look.
My Christian faith tells me that there's no such thing as blood guilt, and virtue or sin is not inherited. It's not a feature of DNA. So every person must be assessed individually as God assesses each person individually. And that's like a foundational view. So I always thought it's great to criticize and it's question like our relationship with Israel because it's insane and it hurts us. We get nothing out of it. I completely agree with you there. But the second you're like, well, actually, it's the Jews. First of all, it's against my Christian faith. Like, I just don't believe that, and I never will, period. And second, then it becomes a way to discredit. That's when I was like, this guy's a Fed. What I do think is bad, just objectively bad and destructive, is the all Jews are guilty or all anybody is guilty of anything, because that's just like not true. And we don't believe that as Christians.
But at other points in the conversation, Fuentes was allowed to peddle anti-Semitism unchecked. So there was a mixed bag. Now, here is more of Roberts explaining why the Heritage Foundation will not be turning its back on Carlson. Take a look.
My loyalty as a Christian and as an American is to Christ first and to America always. When it serves the interest of the United States to cooperate with Israel and other allies, we should do so, with partnerships on security, intelligence, and technology. But when it doesn't, conservatives should feel no obligation to reflexively support any foreign government, no matter how loud the pressure becomes from the globalist class or from their mouthpieces in Washington. The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division. Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right. I disagree with, and even abhor, things that Nick Fuentes says. But canceling him is not the answer either.
Now, Roberts' video was met with bipartisan outrage. Senator Ted Cruz stated, if you sit there with someone who says Adolf Hitler was very, very cool, and that their mission is to defeat global Jewry, and you say nothing, then you are a coward, and you are complicit in that evil. Senator Mitch McConnell wrote, the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement is only as strong as the values it defends. Last I checked, conservatives should feel no obligation to carry water for anti-Semites and apologists for America-hating autocrats, but maybe I just don't know what time it is. As for the Democrats, Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer wrote, While not surprising, coming from the home of Project 2025, this statement from the Heritage Foundation is deeply disturbing. An embrace of anti-Semitism and white supremacist conspiracy theories, all while trafficking anti-Semitic conspiracy theories of globalist powers that control US policy. Every person who has aligned itself with the Heritage Foundation, including elected officials, must disavow this dangerous mainstreaming of these hateful ideologies. Even Heritage Foundation staffers chimed in. One simply posted this meme: "Nazis are bad." The director of Heritage's Economic Policy Institute and Federal Budget Center responded to that post saying, "Evidently a truth that is never more than one generation away from being forgotten." As for Fuentes himself, he responded to Robert's video as well, writing, "I don't know what exactly you abhor about my views, but we can all agree that free speech, Christ, and America first should be the pillars of our movement. Thank you for your courage in standing up for open discourse and defending Tucker against the Israel first woke right." And I don't want to speak for Kevin, but I assume it's the part where he said all the perfidious Jews must be executed, that Hitler had aura, or his downplay of the Holocaust. But Cenk, what do you think of the Heritage Foundation's stance and wading into this conversation overall?
Yeah, I think this is fascinating. So let's deal with what happened first, and then I will talk about the ramifications for Republicans, conservatives, MAGA, etc. Is Nick Fuentes an anti-Semite? Well, of course he is. I mean, look at the quotes that Jordan just read you. There's no question about it. And before, he didn't even hide it. He's now beginning to halfway say, well, not exactly. No, that's not anywhere near good enough, okay? So then is Tucker an anti-Semite because he didn't challenge him? Why do they keep saying he didn't challenge him when we just showed you the tape of him challenging him? And he argued against Nick Fuentes about saying it's about the Jews, but literally no one is mentioning that. So you can say this thing that Jordan said, hey, but in other parts he didn't challenge him enough. Okay, that gives you some context, and that's a fair point. But he made a defense of Tucker Carlson made a defense of Jewish people, and they're making it sound like he said, oh, Nick, you're so right, I hate the Jews too. But you saw it with your own eyes, you heard it with your own ears. So, okay, now, Schumer uses the words must disavow, right? But McConnell and Ted Cruz, all of a sudden they all agree. They all have AIPAC donors, but I'm sure that that's a coincidence. I know the Republicans and Democrats never agree. Oh, that's funny. In this case, they do agree. We should all bow our heads to Israel. Look, overall, I'm with the Tucker distinction that we showed on tape here earlier in this video, which is, to me, it's not close and it's super easy. It's definitely not the Jews. There is no such thing as the Jews because Jewish people are an enormous variety of human beings like all the rest of us. Some are plumbers, some are dentists, some are physicists. And no, the Mossad and Netanyahu does not call all of them and get their permission and involve them in their plots, right? On the other hand, is Israel a government? Of course, right? Does a government look out for its own interests? Well, America doesn't because our politicians are bought. But normally, yes, a government looks out for its own interests, and Israel is looking out for its own interests. And so as it does that, does it have allies here in America that give money to 90% of Congress? Yes. Does that include Ted Cruz, Chuck Schumer, Mitch McConnell? Yes. Does that include almost everyone, both in politics and media, that are now going, this is outrageous. Everyone must be disavowed. Everyone must be eliminated that opposes Israel. I mean Jews. So we've been through this, and you've seen me in debates on this show and other shows. We say Israel, they say Jews. We say Israel, they say Jews. We say, please, no, not Jews, not Jewish Americans. We don't want anyone attacking them. We're just talking about a foreign government. They go, no, you mean Jews. Okay, so that's what you're getting, guys, is all these corrupt politicians, all of the corrupt media are trying to hide behind Jewish people and say, oh, if you're attacking Israel or even just mildly criticizing Israel, you are attacking these Jewish human shields that we put all around us. No. Nick Fuentes actually does attack Jewish people. You heard the quotes. And so, I mean, if he's saying he doesn't say anything against Jews. That's absurd, right? I mean, he's on tape. He's all over tape doing it, right? But Tucker doesn't. Other critics of Israel don't. They say, oh, they use coded language. Guys, okay. We've shown you some coded language in the past, and Republicans are usually not that subtle about their coded language. But now we're at coded language that we think might be about Jewish people, even though he never said it, and he's criticizing Israel. So, okay, can any of these guys, Jordan, do the simple thing that we're doing, which is to say, hey, you know what, Tucker's critique of Israel's perfectly fine. We get it, of course, right? And here's our opinion on Israel, and some things we like, dislike, etc. But hey, we're a little worried he didn't challenge Fuentes enough in other parts of the interview. No, literally no one has done that in power. They all just make it seem like Tucker Carlson agrees with Fuentes. They all hate Jews, and the only reason they're criticizing beloved Israel is because they're such terrible, evil, hateful people, right? So I'm tired of it. Okay, to me now the most important part, Jordan, is okay, but who's going to go on which sides? So because Heritage Foundation is a monster, right? In a couple of meanings of the word. I mean, they did Project 2025. We can't stand them, right? They're for money in politics, can't stand it, etc. But they're a giant within the conservative circles. And so now you have Tucker and Candace and Heritage Foundation and a whole heap of other people, right? On one side. And on the other side, you have all of the official people in mainstream media and politics, etc. I don't think this one's close. I think that the people in Washington have no idea what's about to hit them. No, the base is gonna go with Tucker. They're not gonna go with Mitch frickin' McConnell. They're not gonna go with Ted Cancun Cruz. So I think these guys are in la la land, Jordan. I don't think they have any idea what's going on to their base.
I mean, I agree, but for a different reason. I think what's dangerous here, because Tucker let in not just this interview, but many interviews on his show and then also on his show on Fox, he has explicitly himself pushed anti-Semitic conspiracy theories. He blamed Jews for Afghan refugee resettlement in 2018 after the Tree of Life synagogue shooting, which was explicitly the motive there. He has pushed and name-checked the Great Replacement anti-Semitic conspiracy theory. In this interview, Fuentes said that Jewish types, quote, were behind the Iraq war. Tucker said nothing in July of this year. He had a historian on his show to say that the US was on the wrong side of World War II, and actually Churchill was the great villain of World War II and downplayed the Holocaust. I mean, I think for me, it's yes, he's not pushing back on this, but also as someone who's watched his career and watched and listened to the things he said for a very long time, unfortunately, to the detriment of my mental health, I know what he's about. And he does this kind of wink and nod, and he code switches depending on who he's talking to. He can dabble in it when he's with a historian and hype this guy up. But when he knows the situation that Fuentes is in and Nick Fuentes' public persona, he'll give him a little bit, but when it gets a little bit too far, then all of a sudden it's his Christian faith. He's had no problem blaming Jewish people for other problems in society for years. He just knows juxtaposed with Fuentes, he's in a position to make himself look better. The question for me is, why even bother having him on? This is someone who called for the extermination of Jews, who when talking about the Holocaust said that 6 million cookies, I'm not buying it, who has repeatedly said, I'm just like Hitler, Hitler had aura. He said blacks need to be imprisoned for the most part. He said Jim Crow was better for them, it's better for us. In March 28th of this year, said that Jews are running society, this is Fuentes, women need to shut the F up, blacks need to be imprisoned, and we would live in paradise. That's not somebody I care about. That's not somebody whose opinions I want to learn more about. The only reason he's doing this is because it's gonna piss people off and it'll get him views. And if that's how you're engaging in the public arena, you just are looking for hate views and ultimately monetizing on that hate. To me, that's a reflection of your moral character and not somebody who's really curious about someone's viewpoint or ideology.
So I'm going to ask you a question, Jordan, because it's a very earnest question. So first, look, you got to make distinctions. First of all, Tucker has, you say, blamed things on Jews. I totally get what you're saying. I just don't want the audience confused. He never said Jews. He implied it heavily, is what Jordan is saying in those instances. And so do I agree with everything that Tucker's done? Not by a long shot, even on this topic. So like that World War II revisionist history, I don't get it. I don't agree at all, right? I don't think Tucker Carlson was attacked by demons. Sorry, I don't, okay? So there's plenty of things that I don't agree with Tucker on. The Iraq War, so Fuentes says Jews. That's not true. Dick Cheney, John Bolton, so many of the neocons are not at all Jewish. But did they do it partly for Israel? Yeah, I think they did it partly for Israel. Iraq had literally nothing to do with us, and they were #1 enemy of Israel. And now Iran has nothing to do with us, but they're the #1 enemy of Israel. So the idea that Israel is not controlling our government is absurd. The idea that Jews all collectively are controlling people is also absurd. They're both absurd, right? So then my question is, we see Israel dogs, paid lackeys, which is almost the entire establishment, but you can call them any name you like, trying to eliminate opponents of Israel one by one. And that is clear, and they do it to people on the right, they do it to people on the left. So are we supposed to help them eliminate the people on the right like Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, who are actually waking people up on the right about what Israel's doing to not just the Palestinians, but to our government? Are we supposed to say, yeah, great, let's cancel them?
Is that a question to me?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, I don't think that we should dismiss the risks when they're talking about Israel, which we happen to agree with. Yes, this government is bad, but then, oh, hey, here's a Holocaust denier. Oh, hey, here's another Holocaust denier. That's dangerous. Like, you see the consumption, the media consumption pattern there is dangerous. Just because they happen to agree with our criticisms on the government, and then he repeatedly has Holocaust deniers on his show, that is a dangerous pattern.
Okay.
I don't know what the solution is, but I'm not saying cancel him. This is just societal backlash, which is the standard for this kind of stuff. I'm not saying that there should be government repercussion, but look, in the free market of ideas, you aren't immune from backlash. That's all this is. No one is saying he should lose his show. No one's saying that he should be fired.
That's not true.
He's independent. Like, there's no one in power is saying, no one meaningful in power. I dismiss all the members of Congress who are just trying to conflate his criticism of the Israeli government with everything else. Like, they've got a motive there. But as for audience backlash, individual people are also upset about this. The Heritage Foundation staffers are upset about this. Let's talk about like what the audience consumption patterns are here. That's a dangerous pattern when you're saying, hey, think about all this stuff over here with Israel. Here's a guy who's saying that all these Jews should be exterminated. Whoops.
Yeah, here's my thought on it, because it's not an easy question. That's why I asked you, because what are we supposed to do with this, where the establishment is purposely conflating Israel and Jews, and it's a super dirty trick, by the way, that endangers Jewish Americans, but they don't care. They love Israel 2,000 times more than they care about Jewish Americans, because Jewish Americans aren't bribing them, Israel's bribing them. My thought is, first of all, I'm not helping anyone eliminate Israel's opponents in America. Not gonna do it. So no, I'm not gonna disavow, I'm not gonna do this, blah, blah, blah. And I don't believe in cancel culture, so I don't think anyone should be canceled. I think that they would, if the establishment had their way. Nick Fuentes is easy. They'd cancel Tucker, Candace, us in a second. In 1 second flat. They'd wipe out any show that isn't pro-Israel. So I'm not helping those evil people. And then my answer for Fuentes and Tucker is, do I not have a show? Can I not speak? Okay, Fuentes is 100% wrong about the Jews. Tucker's wrong about being attacked by demons. Whatever the hell attacked him wasn't a demon, okay? Wow, that was so hard. That was so hard. Tucker, if he implies things, does dog whistles, etc., I don't like it. The Great Replacement Theory, I don't like it. I'm totally opposed to it, right? Oh, on Israel, yeah, I agree with him. Problem solved. But no, why are they doing this? Why is Mitch McConnell, Cruz, everyone in media doing it? Because they're like, shut him up, shut him up. He shouldn't be allowed to say these things. No, he is allowed to say these things. It's a free country. Then we fight back on the bad parts where they attack Jewish people, and we don't allow them to do that because Jews are our brothers and sisters here, okay? So that's how this country should work, in my opinion. Last thing is, Kevin Roberts is being really smart here, irrespective of what you think about the policy of it and the morality of it, from a political point of view, because I think Tucker Carlson is the odds-on favorite to win the Republican primary in 2028. At this point, I'd be pretty surprised if he didn't win it. So Kevin Roberts is setting himself up for Secretary of State or some giant role in the Carlson administration by doing this. He's early to Carlson. This is a big moment where he's stepping up to defend him. And why did he do it? Because Kevin Roberts can read the room. The base is already gone for all the ass kissers of Israel that are saying, oh, no, Republicans, get back in line. Everybody kiss Israel's ass. It's not gonna work. And people like Kevin Roberts have figured that out.
For 6 months, I've been fighting these bastards, whether it's Tucker Carlson or whether it's Nick Fuentes. What do you mean we don't cancel people? We canceled David Duke. We canceled pornography on TV. We cancel stuff all the damn time. Hitler admirers, Stalin admirers, Jew haters, American haters, Churchill haters. You're damn right we're gonna cancel them and deplatform them. It's called the market system.
That was Mark Levin openly admitting that he would like to cancel and deplatform Israel critics like Tucker Carlson this past weekend at the Republican Jewish Coalition's Leadership Summit. There's more of this ongoing war within the Republican Party, where that came from. But first, Jank, what are your 2 cents here?
First of all, I appreciate the confession. We cancel people all the time. And here I am in the middle of doing cancel culture, which makes sense because Israel is the king of cancel culture. But he said we should cancel all Jew haters, whatever that means, and all America haters. So does that mean anyone criticizing America or its government? And does that include under Biden? These are important questions we got to suss out for what Mark Levin means. But as you're gonna see here, the real question is, who's gonna win this MAGA civil war? Because they're coming for Tucker, and I have a strong opinion on who's gonna win.
Well, there were many speakers at the RJC summit who slammed Tucker Carlson, Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Congressman Thomas Massie over their criticisms of Israel. Carlson's decision to platform Nick Fuentes also made him a target. In fact, Tucker was such a central theme of the weekend that attendees and even speakers carried these signs that read, "Tucker is not MAGA." Mark Levin harped on that allegation during his speech. Take a look.
You don't get to wrap your psychotic, mental, unhinged, Nazi, Klan, jihadist bullshit around American patriotism. You don't get to claim you're MAGA and America first when you're lining up with the Marxists and the Islamists and Hamas and the terrorists. That's not America first. That's sick.
Representative Randy Fine also declared that Tucker is not MAGA during his speech, in part because Tucker criticized Trump's decision to bomb Iran. Later in his speech, Mark Levin, who is literally a radio show host, mocked people like Tucker for thinking their podcasts and radio shows could make a difference in the world. Take a look.
These aren't powerful people. Seriously? These aren't intelligent people. These are lowlives that have platforms. And I just want the anti-American, anti-Israel, anti-West crowd to understand something. You're gonna have to come through me and millions of people just like me, and you're not gonna make it. You think your stupid little podcast, or your stupid little subscription program, or your little TV show, or maybe you have a little radio show, is going to change the world like hell it is, not if I and everybody else have something to say about it.
Jake, that one got me because that's literally Mark Levin's entire career. It's radio shows, TV shows, subscriptions, all of it.
No, but I know exactly what he's referring to. He's saying we have mainstream media, and you have your little podcast and your little TV show and your subscription service. We do, by the way. Hit the join button below just to piss off Mark Levin. Okay, if you're watching on YouTube, everyone else, tyt.com/join and say, this is for you, Mark. #suck it. Okay, so he's like, what? We bought CBS, we bought TikTok. Okay, we already had a CNN reporting through Jerusalem. Okay, they all have to clear their stories. We have the lady at Meta who confessed, we showed it to you last week. Yeah, we censor all the stories on behalf of Israel. And if you're gonna criticize Zionism, we're gonna cancel you from Meta. We have all the big players. Now here comes a little podcast. The average American. Well, you're not gonna make it. The powerful are gonna crush you. That's what he just said. It's amazing. And I love that little thing about, like you're not smart. Mark, you think it's smart to announce publicly that you're canceling all Americans who would disagree with Israel? And that you're bragging about how you own all the major media and it's us little pipsqueaks, and that you're gonna crush us one by one with the mega powerful people on your side. He said, these aren't powerful people. Well, on that one, Mark, you're right. I'm not that powerful. Tucker by himself is not that powerful, or Dylan, or Rogan, or Theo Vaughn, or Andrew Schultz, or Charlemagne, or any of these guys. Dave Smith, Glenn Greenwald. Why, we go on and on. Crystal Ball. No, none of us by ourselves are that powerful. Rando on social media, who's fighting for America first, or any just sanity. American sovereignty, wouldn't that be amazing for America to be free from sea to shining sea? Yeah, you're right. We're not at all powerful like you and your giant donors and the giant owners of these companies that are pro-Israel. But my guess is United were more powerful than you. And I know uniting is the hardest thing in the world. Why do you think Mark Levin and Daily Wire and all those guys start endless culture wars? To divide you. Why do you think they're constantly doing propaganda against Muslims and honestly about trans people and this? Where did all the trans stuff come from? Daily Wire, okay? So constantly putting out culture war stuff because they know we can't resist. The left and the right can't resist. Then we're at each other's throats and they're laughing their ass off. But now it appears, Jordan, that Mark is not laughing his ass off. All of a sudden, he's a little bit worried about our collective power. And they're starting to worry, oh my God, what if the left and the right unite on behalf of America? Then our Israel first agenda is in trouble. Well, Mark, you're goddamn right it is. And I love that it is. And I'm sick of you and your disgusting friends running our media, running our politics. Yeah, I'm saying it. And it's not Jewish Americans. It's pro-Israel radicals who think, screw this country. This country, I mean, the overwhelming majority of Jewish Americans love this country, love the opportunities, the hopes, the dreams, etc., that America has helped them realize. But a small group of pro-Israel radicals are like, no, everyone has to serve Israel, right? I mean, look at this nonsense garbage he puts out there. These people who are anti-America, anti-Israel, anti-West. No, you made that up. That's a propaganda point. America and Israel are two different countries. They obviously have different agendas, different priorities. And by you putting it in there and putting the West in there, guys, it's such an old trick. You know that, right? Like, oh, you have to give all of your money to Israel. You have to support all their wars. By the way, sometimes you have to fight their wars. And you have to make sure that they could do a genocide. You owe them. You owe them everything. Why? Because Israel is the West. Israel is America. No, Israel is not America. It's not the West. It's Israel. Any other country saying Turkey's the West, Turkey's America, France is America, France is the West. Like France is the West at least makes a tiny bit of modicum of sense, right? Israel being the West doesn't even make any sense. They're just making crap up. It's called Hasbara. It's propaganda that the Israelis have been doing here, honestly, for decade after decade, and they never got caught with nonsense talking points like Israel is a special ally. Whenever you ask them, what does that mean? Literally, no one has an answer. Judeo-Christian heritage of the Bible and the Schofield thing and the blah 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 and West Magna Carta. What? No, the guys like Mark Levin have been controlling our government for a long, long time. But guys, America, I got great news for you. For the first time, they're worried that they are losing control. And I'm here for it. And I love it. And I love to see Mark Levin in a cold sweat panic. We're gonna cancel them all and their stupid podcast. And we're gonna get mainstream media to be back in charge. And they're gonna give me a show on Fox News even though no one likes me. And I'm and on the radio where no one can even listen to me. Because yes, Israel's gonna be in charge. Too bad, Mark, too bad. You're caught. We caught you. And now the rest of your life is going to be devolving into disdainful mediocrity. We're all gonna look at you as the pathetic mouthpiece for a foreign government who's trying to rob us blind. And we're gonna hate you for it. Mark, good news, we already hate you for it. But also good news, I'm on the left. Ultimately, I will protect everyone, okay? I don't want any violence, I don't want anything physical that will only destroy this movement. Do not help Mark Levin and the others. Never do anything physical and never make it about Jewish Americans. But for all the people who say that Israel is the equivalent of America and we need to all serve Israel if we love America, my ass we do. And I got a lot more where that came from, but give me more, Jordan.
Yeah, I think what's really happening here is they are threatened. The power centers, the establishment media, the pro-Israel media figures, they are worried about a democratized media landscape. And they can try to control what people watch. They could try to get shows canceled. But at the end of the day, there's going to be viewer backlash. All you're doing is showing that people have no reason to tune in to your show. So it's going to blow up in their face, and I can't wait for it. But one person who doesn't seem to recognize that is Ben Shapiro, who also got in on this campaign to take Tucker down. In fact, today he devoted his entire show to it, titled Tucker Carlson Sabotages America. He began it with an accurate characterization of Nick Fuentes as an anti-Semitic, sexist bigot, but then pivoted the bulk of his ire towards Carlson and what he called the fragmentation of the political right. Take a look.
That fragmentation is being caused purposefully by a splinter faction of people led by a young man named Nick Fuentes. And that splinter faction is now being facilitated and normalized within the mainstream Republican Party. The main agent in that normalization is Tucker Carlson, who is an intellectual coward, a dishonest interlocutor, and a terrible friend. And Tucker Carlson last week was aided, abetted, celebrated for normalizing Nazism within the Republican Party by the mainstay organization of the traditional right, the Heritage Foundation. But most of all, Tucker Carlson acts as an ideological launderer for other people's evils. Tucker Carlson says many inflammatory things, always buying back just enough of it to appear as though he's not saying what he's clearly saying. He'll ask a series of wildly obsequious questions to Nick Fuentes. He'll even let Nick Fuentes' support for Joseph Stalin slide. But he will grill Ted Cruz about the population of Iran.
You know, I'm curious what you think, Cenk, but you get a little bit more, but some points I think were valid there. But he says his concern that Tucker is ruining the Republican Party by laundering the ideas of hateful, undemocratic people. But he also made it clear that one of his biggest gripes is, unsurprisingly, Tucker and his guests' criticism of Israel. He condemned Tucker Carlson for having Israel critics like economist Jeffrey Sachs on. He falsely characterized guests like Sachs as pro-Hamas. He also said Tucker Carlson has spent more time talking about Jews and Israel since Charlie Kirk's death than about the trans-Tifa ideology that motivated Charlie Kirk's killer. What do you make of what Ben Shapiro had to say in that clip?
Yeah, so first of all, fair show in America. So I agree with you. Was Tucker tougher on Ted Cruz? Yeah, he was. Okay. So fair is fair, right is right. Second of all, I loved that he destroyed Ted Cruz. But they are all like glossing over the fact that Tucker did make a defense of Jewish Americans and a case against anti-Semitism, and he made a Christian case against anti-Semitism. So you could say, hey, he's winking and nodding, although it is a strange way to wink and nod by saying all good Christians would not be anti-Semitic. Is that a wink and a nod? That just feels like he just said the right thing. Okay, you could say, all right, but on other parts, he didn't challenge him enough. And all that World War II revisionism drives me crazy, right? So I got no need for that. I got no need for the anti-Semitism, et cetera. And they're counterproductive, I get it. But at the end of the day, okay, let's go to the core issue, because this isn't really about anti-Semitism. That's just a way they get to shut you up about Israel, right? If they, like, are they actually worried about anti-Semitism? I think real Jewish people are, right? And I think that they're told nonstop, the world hates you, the world hates you, they're all about to kill you, they're all about to kill you. Oh, that's it, they hate you, he said that they hate you, right? And I think it's really counterproductive, but I get it. And by the way, they were killed a lot throughout history, so I totally get it, right? But that's not why Tucker is going on the warpath. That's certainly not why we're going on the warpath. Why are people talking about Israel so much? Instead of trans-Tifa or whatever nonsense that Ben Shapiro made up a minute ago, right? Well, first of all, what did I tell you earlier in the show? What do they want to do? It reintroduced the culture wars. Remember, people hate trans people, hate each other through that war. That way you're divided and we can easily conquer you. And oh, by the way, Muslims, hating Muslims is a twofer, right? One, you get divided on that. And two, that way when we kill them, you go, oh, here's more money to kill them, Israel. Oh, I love when you hate Muslims. And what's hilarious is I saw his spiel about like, we're against all sorts of hate. We're against hate against white people and women and Hindus. And you wanna know the one group he didn't mention? Muslims. Because they're the ones who drive all the hatred towards Muslims, right? So he's like, please get back to being distracted. Here, squirrel. Hey, you can throw all the squirrels you want, Ben. Nobody's getting distracted. The reason why Israel's so important is I care about the genocide, and I think a lot of good moral people care about the genocide. And so many young Jewish Americans care so deeply about stopping the genocide. And if there's anything to worry about and to be animated by, it's a genocide in our time that we're paying for, right? But that's actually, at this point, the number 2 issue. The number 1 issue is American sovereignty, because people have woken up. You can't make them go back to sleep. They see that AIPAC and the Israeli lobby has contributed to 90% of Congress. And that 90% of Congress votes with Israel 100% of the time. 99 Israeli lobby. There's nothing you could do to undo that. We all know it now. And we see the mainstream media covering that up day in, day out, day in, day out. No. The Israeli lobby has no influence at all. 90% of Congress, they love Israel. They just happen to get millions of dollars, but that doesn't affect them at all. It's just their huge love for our special ally. And if you question that, you're an anti-Semite and your life should be ruined and you should never be allowed in media. When mainstream media does that now, we're like, bro, we know the trick, right? You know we're onto you, right? And they don't know it at all. They're just still sitting there going, cancel all Americans who dare to oppose Israel. Brother, it ain't gonna work. But I don't know, Jordan, maybe it will work. As I watched it, I thought, yeah, Mark and his friends have literally billions of dollars. The pro-Israel radicals have an unbelievable amount of money. So they could buy almost all the media companies. And then when you say, but you bought, like Larry Ellison, the biggest contributor to the IDF, like he gives money to the IDF to murder Palestinians as charity. Like, oh, you haven't killed enough Arabs and Muslims there. Here, I will charitably give you money. And then he buys TikTok to make sure that he puts the Israeli censors into TikTok. And then they say, but you're not allowed to report that. But that's actually more control of the media. So no, this is the cat's out of the bag. And they're trying to desperately get that cat and kill it. It ain't gonna work.
I think what Shapiro said, some of it resonated with me, that the way Tucker will or will not push back on different subjects, on different topics, is something that we should be concerned about. But you and I had this debate last week. If people are interested in how we feel about Tucker and Nick Fuentes and that conversation, you can go back on YouTube and look at it. But on this effort to control the media, I think it's going to backfire, because you can buy up outlets and you can buy up platforms, but new things will always emerge. They'll always pop up. You compared it to whack-a-mole earlier. It's a wasted effort, because you can't control audience behavior. I mean, that has been a frustrating point for the left on YouTube for years. Other than this network and the shows affiliated with it, there really hasn't been much. And you're starting to see things start to pop up, like Midas Touch. You have Brian Tyler Cohen, you have Jack Concherella. Now suddenly these people are popping up. But you can't control people as much as the Democrats want. No, go back to MSNBC. That's dying. The viewership is declining. The right is now experiencing the same problem. People are turning off Fox News, they're turning off OAN and Newsmax, and they're going more to independent creators that they feel like they can trust more. So what you're seeing is this kind of like last desperate attempt by people like Ben Shapiro, who has been funded by fracking billionaires for years, by Mark Levin, who's been associated with Fox News for years. No, stay with us, stay with the powerful, stay with the elite. You could trust us, do anything but turn to independent voices, independent creators. It's a problem throughout the media and creator landscape. It's not one that they're going to solve by shunning people that they disagree with. And I appreciate you pointing out the one thing that I think we all need to focus on here when they're saying, oh, stop paying attention to Israel. Remember trans people. Why isn't he talking about trans Tifa? All of those debates are there to distract you. And it's not just on this issue, it's on every issue. And Ben Shapiro and the Daily Wire were created almost exclusively for that reason, because they don't want you to think about things like climate change, by the rigging of our economy, all of these things that are to your detriment, that the political elite, and especially the Republican Party, are responsible for. So what does the Daily Wire do? Movie reviews, trans investigations, demonizing minorities, immigrants. How many godforsaken Disney movie videos has that outlet put out on YouTube? Oh, the new Disney movie's woke. Oh my God, there's a same-sex couple in Buzz Lightyear. Oh, the Barbie movie's too woke. How does that affect your life? How does that affect your ability to pay your bills? And Ben Shapiro, Matt Walsh, all of those freaks on the Daily Wire will never talk about those issues in a way that is positive and impacts you, because they want you to be distracted and be distrustful of media outlets or marginalized communities in this country, because that's what their ultimate role is.
Yeah, last couple of things here. We got a poll up on TYT.com. Who is going to win the MAGA Civil War? A, Mark Levin and Ben Shapiro. B, Tucker Carlson, okay? So look, guys, I know some of the things that are gonna happen, but at the end of the day, I don't know who's gonna win. There's not enough evidence yet, okay? So here's what I mean by that. They say Tucker is not MAGA. This effort to paint Tucker Carlson as an Islamic radical, it's not gonna work, okay? The idea that Tucker Carlson's some secret Islamist or terrorist or Marxist is beyond preposterous, and no one's gonna believe that. In fact, they're kind of, again, overplaying their hands. The Hezbollah is so heavy, so over the top, that people are like, really? Tucker's a Marxist? That's your new talking point? Brother, go back to your old talking points. That's because this is getting dumber and dumber as we go, right? So no, I don't think they're gonna be able to cancel Tucker and Candace. And by the way, now, all the independent podcasters, they haven't even gotten to them yet. Wait till they get a load of Tim Dillon, okay? And then they're gonna try to cancel him, and they're gonna try to cancel Megyn Kelly and Charlie. Okay, so, and finally, yeah, but what happens when the elites that Mark Levin is referring to and the establishment with their billions of dollars and almost all of the politicians and almost all of the media come down like a ton of bricks on the rest of us? Well, they're in the middle of doing it now. So we're going to find out. I don't know who wins at the end, the people or the elites. But this is the actual political, not physical, but this is the actual political civil war to end all other political civil wars of my lifetime. Because this isn't just about MAGA. This is about all of us, right, center, and left versus the elites. Honestly, this is the political war I've been waiting for 23 years while we've been doing the Young Turks. It's about time people realize almost all the politicians are crooks. And it's not just Israel. They serve big pharma, big oil, defense contractors, and every donor that buys our bought, corrupt politicians. Let's all get up, because we're gonna need all of us in order to defeat the Mark Levins of the world, okay? By the way, join the revolution. 8 o'clock Eastern, we're doing a show called The Revolution to teach people left, right, and center, and to do it together. We're crowdsourcing it. So we can show you how to get money out of politics. If we're united, we actually do have enough power to win. It's the uniting part that's hard. That's why they're constantly trying to divide us.
So to see someone lie or speak in a way that's dishonest but totally unmoored from physical reality is always bewildering. And you're like, but no, that's not, I said the opposite. Right. And then you realize, of course, it's not about you or what you said. It's about something bigger.
Yesterday, Tucker Carlson explained to Dave Smith why he believes his fellow conservatives are trying to get him canceled. So we'll show you a little bit more in a moment. But first, Cenk, your 2 cents, what are they?
Yeah, so look, I've got my issues with Nick Fuentes, but later on in this video, I'm going to show you some examples from others who have said things worse than Nick Fuentes. Was there a campaign to cancel them? And are they right to try to cancel Tucker by proxy because he talked to Fuentes? I have strong opinions there as well.
All right, so here is more of Tucker Carlson explaining what's actually going on with the right-wing civil war, as people like to call it.
It's about something bigger, and there are a couple things. I mean, the most obvious on a political level, this is a fight over what happens after Donald Trump. What does the Republican Party look like? Does it actually adopt an America First foreign policy as promised 10 years ago? Or does it maintain its neoconservative posture, which is very unpopular with the public and has borne no fruit? I mean, it's been a disaster on every level for the United States for, since 9/11, at least. But what happens after Trump goes? And that's what this is about. That's why they're vesting the energy in this. That's what the rage is about, because they don't want to lose control of foreign policy. I just can't say that enough. It's about foreign policy. They don't care about domestic policy because they don't care about the United States, but they do care about the US Treasury and the Pentagon, the projection of force on behalf of Israel.
So for the past several days now, we have covered the growing storm of backlash against Tucker Carlson from his own party. Yesterday, Douglas Murray became the latest conservative to do so. He's now infamous for his debate with Dave Smith on Joe Rogan's show, in which Murray tried to argue that Smith can't comment on Israel if he's never been there. Anyway, Murray wrote the following op-ed in the New York Post, and it reads, "Conspiracy kook Tucker Carlson is no conservative and no friend to Charlie Kirk and JD Vance." In the op-ed, Murray points out that Carlson claims to be a friend of both Vance and the late Kirk. In fairness to Murray, Nick Fuentes, who Carlson interviewed last week, was a longtime opponent of Charlie Kirk's, and he's made some genuinely disgusting comments about both JD Vance and Vance's wife, Usha Vance. Here's just one example. Take a look.
Why would we let this fat guy who's married to a and works for a gay CIA Fed, why would we let him grow? It's like so insane. The JD Vance operation is in full swing, man. Think about it. Andrew Tate and Bronze Age pervert and all these people for years, all they talk about is going to the gym, being a vitalist, fighting the Matrix, India smells bad, all this kind of. And now they're all in favor of a fat race mixer who's married to a who named his son Vivek, who was mentored by a Jewish neocon and a gay Fed, Peter Thiel, and the guy's in bed with Israel. And that's your guy? And I'm the controlled opposition, really? Your guy is literally a fat gay race trader who married a
Okay, that was a lot. All right, so now let's watch Tucker Carlson explain the reason why he felt conflicted about bringing Nick Fuentes on and why he ultimately made the decision to do so.
I thought a lot about it for many reasons. And for one, Nick had attacked my family, my father, my wife, one of my children by name, a lot. And so it was hard for me to get over that, For another, as I've said a million times, I thought he was a Fed. But basically, in the end, I decided Nick Fuentes can't be canceled. They've been trying since he was a freshman in college. It doesn't work. In fact, he's gotten bigger. He is enormously talented. Anyone who denies that is lying. And he has like a not fully coherent, but a semi-coherent kind of position. And I would like to hear what it is, because that's kind of my job. And I'm also interested because he's the most influential voice for men under 30 in the United States. More influential than me, more influential than you. I don't think there's any question about that. And I wanted to make the point that I often make, and now seems even more important than it ever has, which is that virtue and sin are not transmitted genetically.
Right.
There is no such thing as blood guilt.
Okay, so finally, last one, we're going to end with Tucker Carlson spilling the tea about private conversations that he has had with both Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin, who are both now publicly shredding him.
I mean, I talked to, Mark Levin. I talked to him right after Charlie was killed. I called Mark Levin and I called Ben and I said, I don't want to fight at all with you. I'm actually not obsessed with Israel. You clearly are, but I do think we agree on a lot of things and let's not fight. I called them both and I said that. And they were both nice to me about it. Very nice. And then immediately started attacking me again. Whatever, they can't help themselves. But Levin did say something amazing to me. He's like, everyone hates Jews. There are Jew haters everywhere. And I'm fighting the Jew haters. And it's like, I mean, I guess if you spend your life on Twitter, you run into a lot of Jew haters, but in real life America, no, that's not actually, most people are really nice. And there is no Nazi movement building in America. That's just fake. And but I really think Levin believes that.
I love that. Hey guys, let's not fight anymore. But I do wonder, Cenk, if all of this infighting, this so-called right-wing Republican civil war, I wonder if this was always just a natural conclusion, the inevitable end for a party that has had so much inherent hypocrisy just baked within it, right? There's a lot of contradictions within the Republican Party and on the right. Perhaps you could say the same about the left, but I think on the right, it's like very, very obvious, very blatant. They say one thing, they do another thing. They'll say one thing one day, they'll say a completely different thing the next day, and then they'll just move on as if nothing has happened or nothing has changed. And I feel like after a certain point, those contradictions are going to start to directly impact one another. And now you have two factions of the party, let's say, roughly two factions that are fighting against each other, and they both believe that they are still right wing. And, they're kind of both right because they both represent some version of what the right has become amidst all of these contradictions. I hope that makes sense. What are your thoughts, Cenk?
So first I want to go to one of our members because I want to give him credit because I had forgotten this and it's a great point. D'Angelo Jones wrote in, he's a YouTube member. Wait a minute, didn't Trump invite Kanye and Fuentes to the White House? But they bring out the pitchforks for Tucker. So this is not to just blame Trump for having dinner with Fuentes, and Trump says that he didn't know who Fuentes was at the time. I'm not trying to get back into that. But listen to what D'Angelo is saying. He's saying when Trump did that, and Kanye is obviously an anti-Semite, couldn't get more anti-Semitic than him. Fuentes obviously is. They said it's okay. Trump did it, but it's okay. But when Tucker invites Fuentes, they have a completely different reaction. Think about why. If you wanted to protect Jews against anti-Semites, you would have the same reaction, potentially to both, right? But if you only wanted to protect Israel and didn't give a damn about Jewish people, you'd say, oh, since Donald Trump works for Israel, it doesn't matter that he meets with anti-Semites and has dinner with them. Totally fine, we're not worried about it and bothered by it at all, right? But Tucker is against Israel's actions and funding Israel. So all of a sudden we care so much about Israel. I mean Jewish people. Do you? Doesn't look like it. So Look, I'm going to read a critical comment too in the middle of the story because we do the show with you guys and it's okay. I want to hear your voice too. So at TYT.com, one of our members, Scoopster, wrote it, normalizing Tucker, the new segment from TYT. Gross. Okay, Scoopster, let's talk about it, right? So did Tucker Carlson do a defense of Jewish Americans when Fuentes was on with him? Yes. If you say, hey, it wasn't enough, no problem, okay? But he did, so folks who are saying that he, agreed with Fuentes about the anti-Semitism, they're just lying that he didn't do that. Okay, so by the way, all of Nick Fuentes' fans also saw that Christian defense of individualism and not blaming the Jews. Okay, but no, I know he's Tucker Carlson, so don't give him credit for that. Second of all, so Nick Fuentes is a terrible guy. I think it's very fair to call him a bigot. Obviously, I mean, you just saw it with your own eyes, right? You heard it with your own ears. So, but he is at this point very, very popular. That's why people are freaking out because of how popular he's become. So should no one in media do journalism? No one should talk to him? Look, I'm worried about talking to him. I get it. So it's not like I think, oh no, what's the big deal? But I think journalists should talk to him to find out what this is about, don't you think? Okay, no, I know, but if it's Tucker, don't do it. Okay, guys, if I really thought this was about anti-Semitism, I'd go house on him, right? On Tucker. So Fuentes is clear. He's made himself clear. And if you're a Nick Fuentes fan, don't tell me that he's not bigoted and racist. He says it all the time. He's very proud of it, right? I mean, you just saw it there. Jeet is a racist term for South Asians. So are we supposed to cheer it? Okay, I mean, that's ridiculous. He says, oh yeah, JD Vance was a race mixer. I'm a race mixer. My wife is Chinese and my kids are half Asian, half Turkish. So, okay, what am I supposed to cheer Nick Fuentes? No, I don't cheer him. Okay, now, having said that, let's look at the other side of the coin. And that doesn't mean this side of the coin isn't true, it is true, okay? But two things can be true at the same time. So first I'm gonna start with graphic 3 here. So I get it, this is a little bit older one, and Ben Shapiro's sophisticated enough to cover this up later. But you remember, he did tweet, of course, Israelis like to build, Arabs like to bomb crap and live in open sewage. This is not a difficult issue, hashtag settlements rock. So, well, that sounds as racist or bigoted as Nick Fuentes. So obviously everybody did a giant campaign to cancel Ben Shapiro, right? Wait, I'm hearing from our producers that no one did that campaign because being bigoted against Arabs and racist against Arabs, no big deal in America. Mainstream media has no issues with it. There was no campaign at all against Ben Shapiro at the time. Okay, well, now let's go to present day. Let's go to Randy Fine. He's a current sitting member of Congress. He said, tell your fellow Muslim terrorists to release the hostages and surrender. He says to Rashida Tlaib, a member of Congress, your fellow Muslim terrorists. And then he says, until then, hashtag starve away. So he's saying we should continue, Israel should continue to starve all of the Palestinians to death, and we should finance it. Now, has Nick Fuentes ever said we should starve all the Jews to death? No, right? Now that doesn't mean that he didn't say other terrible things, he did. But he's never said anything as terrible as Randy Fine. So that's why there's a giant effort in the country to cancel Randy Fine and anyone that Randy Fine would wait, I'm hearing from producers, there is no such effort at all. They're not trying to censure him, sanction him. Everyone's allowed to talk to him. Piers Morgan had him on the other day. I was on with him. No one said, Cenk, how could you talk to that disgusting genocidal freak? You should be canceled for talking to Randy Fine. No, because being racist against Arabs, being bigoted against Muslims is considered perfectly acceptable in America. But then they say, if anyone is anti-Semitic against Jewish Americans, I think that's equally bad to anything else. They say, no, that's the one thing that you should all be canceled for. But wait a minute, remember the point that our viewer made earlier. But when Trump did it, that was still fine. When Trump talked about the Nazis in Charlottesville, without getting into the controversy of exactly who he supported, how he supported, but there was actual literal Nazis marching in the streets. But that was less of an issue. And what Trump said about it was a big story, but nobody said you should never talk to Trump and you should, etc., because it wasn't about Israel. This isn't about bigotry and racism. In fact, let's go to one more clip from Randy Fine and see if we could find someone who is clearly more racist than Nick Fuentes.
The fact of the matter is the Palestinian cause is an evil one. The only end of the conflict is complete and total surrender by those who support Muslim terror. In World War II, we did not negotiate a surrender with the Nazis. We did not negotiate a surrender with the Japanese. We nuked the Japanese twice in order to get unconditional surrender. That needs to be the same here. There is something deeply, deeply wrong with this culture, and it needs to be defeated.
Has Nick Fuentes ever said there's something deeply wrong with the Jewish culture, it must be defeated, and we should nuke it twice? We should try to nuke all the Jews in America. No, he's never said that. That doesn't mean that what he said isn't terrible. I'm gonna say now for the third or fourth time, because people love to do smears, he has said many, many terrible things, but none as terrible as disgusting racist and bigot Randy Fine. Yet there is no campaign to cancel anyone over Randy Fine or talking to Randy Fine. So can you begin to see now, this isn't about people's concern about bigotry. This is a concern about their beloved Israel that's financing almost all of Washington, apparently a ton of the media, and they demand complete loyalty and subservience to Israel. So as Tucker Carlson fights back against that, no, I am not going to attack him for that. Sorry. Like, if you want to have me disagree with him on a million other things, great, I do it all the time on the show, right? But if you say, no, you have to cancel Tucker along with Fuentes, okay, the minute we all cancel every single person who's ever talked to Randy Fine. But that's not gonna happen because the powerful in this country are enormous bigots. They hate Muslim people. They don't really particularly care about Jewish people too. They care about the money that's coming from Israel. But let's get to Douglas Murray as quickly as we can.
Yeah. I think what's interesting about the right is that they have for so long, for the most part, stuck with the same talking points. And I think that's a big part of the reason why they've been able to galvanize so much support amongst Americans. They haven't had as much of the infighting that the left has kind of become notorious for. We love to attack our own. That's not saying anything controversial even to say that. But in media, it does get tricky, especially today, right? The days of corporate mainstream media dictating the narrative are long gone, for better or for worse. We live in a world where people like Nick Fuentes, people like me for that matter, can gain access to the public, can have public platforms, they can gain public support for viewpoints that may or may not be popular in the mainstream, again, for better or for worse. So then the question becomes, is it something about regulation? Is it about censorship? Or is it about freedom of speech, freedom of press, allowing people to have access to people? And the thing is, I don't necessarily agree that we shouldn't speak to one another, people who are inflammatory, who use, racial slurs just very, very casually. But there is, the question of platforming these people. The thing is, the argument is always that, they already have a platform, they're already out there. And at some point, especially, Cenk, I know whenever we're putting together these shows, like these are conversations that we have with the production team is, what is the benefit of these stories? And sometimes you kind of have to weigh it, right? Is this something that is now culturally relevant that it would be irresponsible not to speak about? Or are we amplifying a voice that we would rather not be amplified, right? And it's hard because again, it's like how much of that is censorship and how much of that is just like, we're reporting the news to the American people and to our audience, to these people who trust us to report these certain things to them. And the flip side of that, or another aspect of it, I should say, is that the mainstream news, right? They are covering everything pertinent to the White House, to Donald Trump, to Congress, things like that. And they are busy. They are inundated with all these stories. They just don't have a lot of time to talk about the stories that we tend to talk about on these shows and on similar shows. there's just too much out there. So it becomes, a matter of like personal responsibility, and also like that line, like where do you draw your personal line, or where does your network draw that line as far as like, who are we talking to? How are we talking to them? I do think also that it is important to have people, Cenk, I haven't talked to you since you went on, what was that, Pierce Morgan's show with Stephen Miller's wife. I think it was important for the two of you to be on that screen together and to oppose one another that way. Anna, she's also all over on CNN and on various programs talking to people who are opposed to her viewpoints and things like that. And I think it is important to have those conversations and for people to see that there are opposing views out there. So again, it's not a simple answer as far as like what is the best way forward. Everything is going to be kind of case by case, but this is the reality of the world that we're living in. AI is now here, so that's going to add another layer of complexity to this problem. But Nick Fuentes, whether we like it or not, he is out there. He does have an audience, and at this point, the things that he says are culturally relevant. So there's that.
Yep. By the way, Douglas Murray implied that you know what? It's ridiculous to say that Charlie Kirk was turning on Israel. Everyone is lying about it. So I wanted to really, have you been there, Douglas Murray, as he was attacking Tucker Carlson and saying that he should be canceled, of course, in the New York Post, which is basically run by Israel. So I just want to real quick give you two quotes from Charlie Kirk. April 16, 2025, so a little bit before he was murdered. Once anti-Semitism becomes valid grounds to censor, even imprison somebody, there will be frantic efforts to label all kinds of speech as anti-Semitic. The same way the left labeled all kinds of statements as racist to justify silencing their opposition. So it appears that Charlie Kirk disagreed with Douglas Murray and Ben Shapiro and Mark Levin and every single person saying that not just Nick Fuentes, but Tucker Carlson should be canceled for the supposed crime of anti-Semitism. So meanwhile, they're all pretending they're on Charlie Kirk's side, and they say, of course, that Charlie Kirk had no concerns about Israel at all. So that's why I wanted to show you this.
I am going to continue to ask the question, a 20-hour response in a country the size of New Jersey. That begs a big explanation. And more importantly, America is significantly underwriting the Israeli government $4 billion a year. We as American taxpayers deserve answers to this. We deserve answers. Also, if we're going to get into a regional or world war based on an intel failure. So, we pay for this. What are we buying, right? I got smeared as a Jew hater, an anti-Semite, and conspiracy theorist because I said exactly what I just said. And I refuse to back down despite all the smears thrown at me. Because I learned during COVID. I learned when they told us that it came from a bat in the Himalayas. I learned when they told us the vaccine was safe and effective. I learned when they told us that ivermectin was horse paste, that you better keep asking questions because it's the only thing that keeps us free.
And the same people who smeared Charlie Kirk for that are now smearing Tucker Carlson for the same exact thing while pretending to speak for Charlie Kirk. But you just saw it with your own eyes and you heard it with your own ears. So don't let them lie to you. Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.